Well, it's time for another Rogers Capital Market Commentary, where we attempt to be the antidote to water cooler wisdom. Well, the month of May was flat, if you can believe it. So that now leaves us with a 2022 of January -5, February -3, March with a little rebound of +3, a brutal gut punch in April, down 8, and then a flat May. So our 2022 is shaping up so far with a 14% correction. Now, if that number sounds familiar to you, it should. We've talked about multiple times the average correction in a midterm election year is negative 14%, right where we find ourselves today. And yet, the consumer and corporate balance sheets remain resilient. In fact, to check in on our recession lights, our recession indicators, there are 12 of these lights that we follow. We've talked about it a little bit briefly in the past. These lights that shift from green to yellow to red, indicating tough economic times and, of course, usually tough stock markets that follow. Today, we've, though, found ourselves with 9 green lights, 2 yellow lights, and just 1 red light. And perhaps one ray of sunshine on the inflation front. The core PCE deflator fell to 4.9% year over year in April, versus 5.2% year over year in March. That's actually something we've followed a little bit. In fact, something that last year suggested that maybe the Fed wasn't being real straight with us on this supposed transitory inflation. Now, not a lot of change this month other than that. And given today's uncertainty and volatility, I thought I'd spend a little time on another topic. As a client, you know I don't manage everyone's portfolio the same. And that's because none of you are the same. You have different situations, different goals, different financial plans, different risk tolerances, different investment preferences. One of the most important differences is where you're at in your stage, of the life cycle of an investor. See, there's 3 stages in the life cycle of an investor. There's accumulation phase, there's preservation or maintenance phase, and there's distribution phase. And what's interesting is your success drivers, factors, are different based on where you're at in the life cycle of an investor. Let's take the first stage, for example, the accumulation phase. Now, this is where we're building wealth. We're just starting out. What would you guess is the most important factor in the accumulation phase? For 24 years, I've asked this of clients. In fact, sometimes big presentations, rooms, hundreds of people. And without fail, the answer is always growth rate. Make as much money as I can. Actually, no. The truth is that putting away as much as you can, as often as you can, is the most important driver for your success in the accumulation phase. And why is that? Well, because we're just starting out. We don't have lots of money yet. And so the compounding of that money on a smaller amount isn't as impactful. In fact, let's say on a $10,000 investment, a 20% gain is $2,000. And while that's nothing to sneeze at, you're likely to put that in your 401k, and maybe with a match, you're adding $2,000 to your 401k account in 2, 3, 6 months maybe. The other thing that's kind of, interesting is, of course, the time value of money on whatever it is that we put in there. in that accumulation phase, the dollars I'm putting in will be compounding for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. Another thing that's a little bit interesting in this phase from a mindset standpoint, you actually want the market to go down. Now, we're not going to tell this to stage 2 and stage 3 people, okay? But you actually want it to go down. As crazy as that sounds, as twisted as that sounds, why do you want it to go down? Because if it gets cheaper, you're buying more. See, we're building wealth in phase 1, accumulation phase. And so again, the number one factor is put away as much as you can, as often as you can, and then let that money work for you. Now, stage 2 is preservation or maintenance. What would you guess is the most important factor in the second phase? It's not adding money anymore. It's growth rate. Now, it's not just any growth rate. We need a kind of a consistent growth rate. While a larger nest egg compounds very well, the more money you have, the more money you make, right? It also means even more severe downsides. People have asked, well, how do I know when I've gone from accumulation phase to preservation phase? And I would tell you, there's kind of a magic flip of the switch somewhere in that $250,000 to maybe $500,000 range. There's kind of a flip of the switch where it doesn't just matter how much we make, but it also matters how much we lose, right? There's a different part of the soul that it starts to resonate with. For example, if we're at $500,000 and we have a 20% downturn, it's $100,000 loss. That's tough to look at on a statement. And by the way, we can't put that in our 401k as an addition, right? In 2, 3, 6 months. So what's the most important factor? It's that consistent return. And it doesn't matter how much we make so much as how much we keep. That's phase 2, preservation phase. Third phase, distribution phase. What would you guess is the most important factor? Yeah, you've guessed it. Downside protection. See, we're living off these assets now. And as we sell them to create the paycheck that comes to the bank account to pay our monthly expenses, we can't be down 50% on these assets. We can't be selling what used to be $2 of assets so that we can buy the same $1 of groceries. And if we do, then it's not there to come back. So phase 3, most important driver is downside protection. So that's the life cycle of an investor. Which phase are you in? What's the factor? What's the driver for your success? We'll talk to you next time.